Welcome to the Art Salon. First live Art Salon in 2 years. We're so happy to be back. And thank you to Northampton Open Media for live streaming this event for people who couldn't make it tonight in person. So big shout out to them. I'm Eliza Thompson. I'm one of the members of the steering committee of the Art Salon, and I'm also the manager and director of APE. APE is the fiscal sponsor for the Art Salon, and APE is also the programming organization for this particular space in this building. And this building is called 33 Hawley, and it's situated on unceded land of the Nipmuc and peh-chak-cha peoples. This building is owned by the Northampton Community Arts Trust, and there are 3 organizations. As you can see, there were a lot of people milling around the building. There are 3 organizations that actually inhabit and program in this building. APE is one of them, the Northampton Center for the Arts is another, and Northampton Open Media. So we are so happy to be in this big, wonderful space. And as you can see, it's not finished. We just spent $170,000 on making 2 acoustic treated walls so that you can't hear what else is going on in the building. And we have a lot more work to do. We are very fortunate to have had lots of grants, and the next big thing that we're going to do is put an amazing sprung floor in here so that we can have amazing dance events. So anyway, I want to introduce Donna Bell. Donna Bell is also on the steering committee for the Art Salon. She is going to introduce the artists as well as the other members of the steering committee. So thank you all so much for coming, and we're so glad to be back.
Hello and welcome, and again thank you for everyone for making it out tonight on this gorgeous spring-like night, I guess. It's 50 degrees. So yes, my name is Donna Bell Cassis. I'm part of the Curatorial Committee here at the Art Salon, and I'm very excited to see you all here today. Over the past 2 years, we have continued to feature artists online despite COVID. If you've all been watching our social media, we've had the Up Close series, which are still on view on our website and on Facebook, but we interviewed several artists, local artists, and they're quite compelling interviews, so I hope you get to check those out. We have some exciting changes within the Art Salon. I'd like to welcome today 3 new Curatorial Committee members. We have Amanda Herman, if she could please stand. She is the education curator at the University Museum of Contemporary Art at UMass. We also have artist and educator at from Springfield, Priya Nadkarni Green. And they are all here today. You probably can't see them in the dark. And we also have artist and educator at Springfield College and also director of the William Blizzard Gallery at the college, Jessica Poser. She's up there in the back. And most importantly, the Art Salon could not happen without our new communications coordinator and administrator, Maddie McDougall, who's behind our presentation projector there. She is also an artist, community organizer, and educator, and also founder of Resilient Community Arts, which is a nonprofit art space in East Hampton. So welcome, new members of the Art Salon. We of course have to say thank you and goodbye to our outgoing Curatorial Committee team members, one of whom is here, Betsy Stone, who's in the back there. Ava Fierst, who is not here tonight. And Lisa Thompson, of course, is an outgoing member, but she will serve as a consultant and fiscal, of course, she's also our fiscal sponsor of the ArtSalon through APE Gallery. So we want to thank them for all of their years of commitment to the arts and community engagement. So if we could all give them a hand, that would be really great. So, 4 amazing artists joining us this evening to share with us their work and their studio practice. Tonight we will start with Grace Kubilius. Grace is an interdisciplinary artist whose work includes wearable objects, sculpture, and video. She completed her MFA at Virginia Commonwealth University and received her BFA from the Maryland Institute College of Art. Grace has been a resident artist at Quirk Gallery, Pyramid Atlantic Art Center, Craft Alliance Center of Art and Design, and Acre. Her work has been shown at the Baltimore Museum of Art, Society for Contemporary Craft, Ohio Craft Museum, Virginia Museum of Contemporary Art, and the Fuller Craft Museum. She currently lives and works in Western Massachusetts, and she recently founded She Shell, which makes one wearables using vintage recycled materials. Please welcome Grace Kubilius.
Trying to figure out the best place to put my mask. Oops. Okay. All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Grace, and I'm going to take you through my practice and talk through some of my favorite and more sort of foundational works that have helped set sort of the framework for how I approach making art. This is just a picture of me as a kid, and I'm going to try to talk pretty quickly. And I'm sorry about that. All right. Okay, so I found my way into making art through my background in fashion. I really enjoyed fashion, but I found that in the process of making garments, I was continually sort of confronting my body or bodies in general. This kind of self-reference confused my focus from garment making to being a little bit more body obsessed. And I started to attempt to combat this through making garments that felt, in a way to me, anti-body, using sculptural shapes, obscuring faces. So continuing to consider the body more as an armature for these sculptural garments, this work titled "Oh, How I Love You" starts to consider identity as it relates to gender construction, notions of girlhood, the idea of pretty. I use text, found objects like quilts, Barbie heads, rubber. Moving away from garment making, I use video performance and incorporating my image and body into the work. I'm starting to think more here about what it means to perform gender and how gender can be expressed through things like makeup, body modifications, behavior. This piece is titled Her, She, Me, You, and in this performance, I attempt to apply a full tube of lipstick kind of in one go, and I start to sort of approach makeup as just a material. So pink is a color that I've found myself very attracted to and kind of really love, but the idea of wearing it on my body makes me super uncomfortable. So in a series of performances, I am finding ways to make myself pink. Here I apply lipstick and attempt to kiss my body everywhere that I can reach, marking it pink. It results in something that looks bruised, possibly stained, definitely. I'm thinking about stains, feminine and bodily stains, and their association to shame. This installation starts to integrate my video performance with my textile and sculpture work. So here I move away from thinking about the body as an armature for garments and make armatures for what I think of as new bodies. The armature is used to posture the sort of soft, floppy, and unruly textiles. The textiles in small sculptures have false eyelashes sewn on, hair extensions, powdery residue, in an attempt to kind of gender these new bodies. Oop. I'm gonna go talk here and then maybe go back. Furry latchhook pieces, stained carpet pieces, sort of reference the body and the home a little bit more indirectly and are injected throughout the installation. The title of the installation is Pebbles is a Girl That Doesn't Know Anything. Okay. So the videos are made into little tableaus that are surrounded by sprouting sweet potatoes. I had a sweet potato in my studio, and I forgot about it, and it sprouted, and it kind of made me really sad because I love sweet potatoes. So I decided to start sprouting them and kind of make an attempt to really sort of care for them. It felt sort of how I felt about myself at the time. I wanted to care for it, but ultimately I failed and they rotted, so I started to incorporate them into my work as kind of like a secret self-portrait in a way. So tiled surfaces and small ceramic handles and the sort of like curtainness of the textile allude to more of a bathroom space. And I'm starting to think about the bathroom as a place where we groom and confront our bodies and get ready, but also that is at times filled with different kinds of shame. So there are two videos in this installation. In one, I methodically apply nail polish to my nails and progress over time to covering my entire fingers, again, approaching makeup as material. And in the other video, I'm both pinched and caressed over and over until my face is rendered pink. On one side is a man's hand, and on the other, a woman. Again, I'm thinking about stains and shame, and there's this kind of like oscillation between a loving and longing touch and one that is sharp and that hurts. This installation is called The Foam in Your Mouth is Hers, in parentheses, Ladyfingers. And again, it integrates video performance and sculpture and textiles. Here, I'm thinking more about gender and sexuality in relation to gender construction. Identity construction. The draping textiles are digitally printed collages incorporating oranges, sprouting sweet potatoes, debris, and images from porn and from BDSM scenes. So I'm utilizing chain, rubber pieces, leather, beads, dried flowers, zip ties to make these kind of drooping garland elements. And I'm thinking about these materials and what they might allude to and how I can kind of shift or enhance those meanings when recontextualized by sort of colliding them together. The video is placed on top of a tiled surface that sits on top of this tank of water filled with sprouting sweet potatoes. So the potatoes start to rot and the water gets dirty throughout the show, and they're kind of like caged but also on display. In this video, my hands are covered in temporary tattoos. They're all flowers, so I lick and I bite the tattoos to remove them. And the video ends when they are mostly gone. The flowers point to this kind of idea of sweetness and girlhood. As I lick them, it gets slobbery and wet. So there's this kind of like hunger and desperation for this sweetness or innocence, but juxtaposed by this like sexual action. The next few works are from a series called Held in Large Hands, which is from a small solo show. And in this series, the works are smaller in size and hang off the wall, kind of like little curtains. Each of the works incorporate a quilted piece made, again, with digitally printed fabric. In these prints, I'm collaging images of flowers and landscapes with black and white photos and images that are kind of like glitching out. Again, using these garland-like pieces, I'm combining what I think are sort of objects of girlhood with things that I would call decorative woman debris. So similar to the sweet potatoes, I use fresh flowers and fruit that wilts and dries throughout the duration of the exhibition. Again, here I'm interested in this kind of idea of preserving something sweet or pretty. This piece is called She Shell. It's quite small, and it's a pair of earrings made from shells. One with a photo I took of myself for a partner, and I'm kind of pointing to our bodies in the way that we decorate them as a shell. Mine in particular, calling it a she shell. This piece is called Flower Power Baby Lady, and I'm continuing to work in the same way as the previous series with this piece, and I'm more interested here in kind of using digital imagery, collaged, and printed fabric, which is something that I'm continuing to pursue at the moment. This all kind of leads me to where I'm at now. I started She Shell Studio in May of 2021, and it is one-of-one accessories and clothes made from mostly upcycled and vintage materials. So it's been kind of like a fun and divergent addition to my practice at this point. And that is all I have. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Grace. I don't know if anyone got a chance to see upstairs in the mezzanine, but several of the artists have some of their work up there that you can view in person, and I noticed some of the images that were in the presentation are upstairs. So if you hadn't had a chance to see them in real life, you can do that afterwards. Now to our next artist. Mahwish Chishty combines new media and conceptual work with materials and techniques of South Asian art and craft traditions. Her work has been exhibited at the University of Technology, Sydney Gallery in Australia, Bogosian Foundation, Villa Empain in Brussels, Utah Museum of Contemporary Art in Salt Lake City, Museum of Contemporary African Diasporan Arts in New York City, Imperial War Museum in London, Gandhara Art Gallery in Karachi. Chishty's work is in public and private collections, including the Foreign Office in Islamabad, Fukuoka Asian Art Museum, and Imperial War Museum in London. Currently, Chishty is an assistant professor in the Department of Art at the University of Massachusetts in Amherst. She is a recipient of a Guggenheim Fellowship and other fellowships and award. She's also had several residencies, been in several residencies, including Yaddo in Saratoga Springs, Chicago Cultural Center, Vermont Studio Center, and she holds a BFA with a concentration in miniature painting from the National College of Arts in Lahore, Pakistan, and an MFA in studio arts from the University of Maryland in College Park. Please welcome Mahwish Chishty.
Thank you so much. I hope you can all hear me okay. Thank you so much for coming here tonight. I'm going to share my slides of one project, particularly that I did in 2018. It seemed relevant to talk about that today because spring is upon us, and the way Pakistani celebrates spring is through a kite festival called Basant. I created a project inspired by this festival of Basant by collaborating with children across the borders, US-Mexico borders, specifically in San Diego, and Pakistan-Afghanistan border in a small town called Kangra. I worked with children and I asked them to create and decorate these handmade kites that they would give to each other as gifts. So children in San Diego in 2018 created kites that I took back to Pakistan and gave to the children in Kangra. And I conducted similar project a couple of months later in Kangra, in a small village town where it's really just open to girls. And I worked with those girls, and they created and decorated the kites for children in San Diego. This exchange was important to me because I had been making works about drone strikes for a few years now, until I came across a statement by a 13-year-old boy from Pakistan whose life has been affected by the drone strikes at the border. And he mentioned that on cloudy days are the days when the drones don't operate. And I was thinking about what are those outdoor activities for children that they cannot do when it's cloudy outside. And Pakistani kites are made out of thin paper. And it made me think of investigating and digging deeper into different kinds of kite materials. And I came across this Japanese kite style called gunya. And it's plastic with a triangular hole in the middle, which allows for this aerodynamic lift. And a kite can fly with plastic with wind less than 5 miles per hour wind. So that was the initiative for this project, and it was really amazing experience to work with the children at both borders. It's something I have never done. I've always worked in paintings and sculptures in isolation of my studio. To do something with the community, and specifically with children at that level, was something very meaningful to me. I had also worked, and these are some of the images or photos of these kites. Children in Pakistan have never, particularly this school, do not have any art program. So it was very unique to bring these materials such as Sharpie markers and plastic sheets and tell them just to draw something. What inspired them to make something was to look around, but also to find references within the culture. So we talked about henna and hand decoration of henna on hands. So some of the patterns in these came from what they were observing, but they were also mimicking each other's, what the drawings were from each other, which was really interesting. I had my mother in this project with me, and she was also assisting. She's actually there in the middle, is my mother. I think that there was something really very deep for me in this project, because I think that there was, and I hope that I get another opportunity to do something like this, but this also project happened because I had the support because of Guggenheim Fellowship, and I was able to get on a research leave that I could have a semester off with full pay, and I could just execute this and travel across the borders. This is an exhibition of this project at South Dakota Art Museum. That gives an overview of the videos of children actually flying the kites that were gifted to them on two sides of this wall. One side showed children flying the kites in San Diego, and the other side was from Lahore, from Kangra. And I also had created paintings, portraits of the children that I had worked with, and they were paired together on stainless steel. They were inspired by these kind of like a passport size format photos. So they're 3 by 3 inch. I blew it up into 3 by 3 foot squares. And they were painted in a format that it's hard for somebody to be able to make out an image when you're up close. And it required distance for clarity, this kind of half-tone image. And it was inspired by an artist collective in Karachi that created a project which was called It's Not a Bug Splat. Bug splat is a term that is used by drone operators when they hit a civilian on the ground and there's a casualty. They created a larger-than-life-size portrait of a girl who died in a drone strike, and they created it and put it on the ground so that the drone operators could see it from high up. So these portraits were referencing that project collective, and finally, for my collaboration with the children, I I facilitated a virtual meeting where children in San Diego met with the children in Congra in a live format. It was very difficult, but it was 12-hour time difference. Children in San Diego had to come in after dinner with their parents, and I was there with them in San Diego. And the children in Pakistan actually had to leave early for school to be able to, before school actually, and come in, and they were able to get in and basically just, meet with each other. So I'm just going to leave it at that. It was a very amazing experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mahwish. Really excited to hear more about that project. As you know, after these presentations, you will have an opportunity for answering or asking some questions with the artists, so stay tuned for that. Our next artist is Ryan Murray. Ryan Murray received his Bachelor of Fine Arts from Carnegie Mellon University in 2014 and is currently located in Springfield. His specialties include printmaking and spray paint stencils. His work starts out as collages of drawing, photography, and internet stock images, which are then edited in Photoshop, printed out, and hand-cut in layers. His work centers around unearthing the underrepresentation of mental health in communities of color. He has exhibited in numerous galleries and shows in Western Massachusetts and has had several permanent installations in the city of Springfield, including in Union Station and Pynchon Park. He is a recipient of grants from the Berkshire Taconic Community Foundation, Artist Relief, and Mass MoCA's Assets for Artists. Please welcome Ryan Murray.
All right, hey everyone. There we go. All right, so I'm going to start things off with me and my element, sharing art with children, which is something that I really like to do. So that was taken during a workshop at Girls Inc. in Holyoke, where I was familiarizing these girls with art supplies and materials and helping them overcome perfectionist tendencies while they worked, something that is relevant to me because I'm still learning to do that. So I thought I'd split my time up here into two rough sections, my main body of work and then what I've been up to since the pandemic started. Okay, so this first group of images I'll just talk about as a whole. I first started stenciling in college. I fell in love with the medium. The stencils that you typically see on the streets and on the walls are very in your face. And I knew if I was going to do this myself, I had to be in your face with the subject matter. So I knew I had to talk about the Black experience, but I needed to talk about a facet of that experience that rarely gets mentioned and really pertains to me, which is being open about mental health. African Americans are 20% more likely to develop some kind of mental health issue than their white counterparts. But of that group, only 20% seek treatment for it. Studies also show that almost 2/3 of African Americans believe having a mental illness is a sign of weakness, which in turn leads to shame and being closed off about the subject. I believe this is incredibly dangerous, especially in a time in which so many factors such as racism, police brutality, socioeconomic conditions are proven to have adverse effects. For me, the catalyst was growing up Black in a predominantly white community. I was raised here in Northampton, which is 87% white. In thinking back to those experiences, you sort of feel like an odd juxtaposition at times, and it could be a lot harder to find help that looks like you. So my work is about unearthing all these issues and coming to terms with the somewhat comforting fact that my experience was not unique, that my mental health journey is the Black mental health journey as a whole. And to examine Black mental health, I had to not only look into my past, but the Black person's past. How do patterns of suffering repeat themselves across generations? What expectations does society have of you? I chose the medium I chose because, as I said before, it's unflinching. As is stated, I start out with a pastiche of photography, magazine, and stock images, all assembled together in Photoshop, printed out in layers, and I hand cut each layer with an X-Acto knife. I grew up with tremors in my hands because I had epilepsy, and doing this over and over for so long helped steady my hands. So there's this extra degree of neurodivergence that's kind of inherent in every piece. That said, I do still throw a couple of freehand works into the portfolio now and then. My brushstroke was another thing I struggled with growing up, for the same reason, shaky hands. I'm still finding confidence in that today. In fact, you'll see that I signed most of my stencil work under my pseudonym, Raiwando Jones, and there are two reasons for that, really. The first is that Raiwando it ended up being this name that I gave to this outward manifestation of everything I loved about myself and everything that I wanted to be. Just something of an alter ego. And the second reason is that my name looks terrible as a tag if I ever went down that route. So during my sophomore year of college, I noticed a record store off campus that would leave boxes of free vinyls outside their door. I kept them, and rather than getting a record player, I decided to paint on them. The reason for this, I tell people, is that I was mainly drawn to the compact circular framing of these images, but the more honest reason is that, like a lot of college students, I'd seen somebody on DeviantArt doing it. I would then sell these records to classmates and other friends who would request me to stencil portraits of celebrities, musicians, people's pets, and more, and soon the demand for them became so high that I launched an Etsy store. It has served as a great source of residual income, especially during the pandemic. That's my store, not the record store off campus. So for a long time, my exposure was limited to coffee shops and restaurant walls. Not unheard of, sure, but it helped to get my name out there, and it was still very much under the label of emerging artist. But that changed during a show in Springfield City Library in 2018 when a gallery owner approached me. Her name is Rosemary Tracy Woods from Art for the Soul Gallery. And it was then that I had my first representation. So in June 2019, with Art for the Soul's help, I partnered with Fresh Paint Springfield and spent a week making this mural in Springfield's Union Station. And I chose to highlight the city's history as a stop on the Underground Railroad and the figures, both past and present, who worked to preserve that history. And my goal was to educate the public on something that they may not know about their own city. My partner helped with the research, and I still give talks about the development of this mural to grad students in high school classes, which is great. Priya also did a mural in downtown Springfield too, and it's really great. You should check it out. I stuck this cute little picture in there of some flower boxes I volunteered to paint at the Springfield Library's Pine Point branch a couple of years ago, kind of just a way of saying, look, I can paint cute and less serious things too. Sometimes I just want to encourage kids to read. So the next few images are some murals I did for schools in the Hampden County area. This one is at the John J. Duggan Academy in Springfield. And it kind of marked the point where I took the full plunge into public art, because I dedicated most, if not all, of these pandemic months to painting walls. This one was a design that was originally submitted by the graduating senior class, and we were originally going to paint it together with me advising, but due to lockdown, I had to paint the whole thing myself. And the next two are from the Palo Friari Social Justice Charter School in Chicopee. And the first one is in their mock courtroom, and the second one, which you'll see in a moment, is just above the main foyer. And both of these were done in late summer / early fall of last year. They're a relatively new school from what I understand, so they've been hiring artists to decorate all the walls inside their school. I've been contacted by them about going back and possibly painting the music room and the library, or just a classroom hallway in the future, so we'll see how that goes. I returned to Fresh Paint last summer to make this mural in Mason Square. This was dedicated to the community gardens in the area and uses a method called polytab, where you paint on these squares of parachute cloth and then assemble them together on the surface. It's a long-lasting method and also pretty pandemic safe, because You can have different people working on different parts at different locations at different times. So this is my most recent public art project. It was part of Springfield Cultural Partnership project called Spark, where a group of artists came together to transform the newly renovated Pynchon Park in the downtown area, and things like utility boxes, signage, sewer grates, tiny libraries, sound installations, they're all worked on, they're all down there. And this mural of mine was created using fence slats that I painted individually and then installed into the chain links. So this was September of last year. All in all, these past couple of years were really dedicated to giving back to a community that is increasing its support for artists in spite of the pandemic. That things with the public art have kind of settled down. I'd like to switch back to making more thematic work as the months continue. And I'm currently planning a solo show with Rosemary at Art for the Soul Gallery later this spring. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ryan. So inspiring. And last but not least, we have our final artist this evening. We have Ashley Eliza Williams, who is a painter, sculptor, and amateur ecologist, exploring new ways of interacting with nature and with each other. Her work has been shown nationally in a range of art spaces and scientific venues. She's attended artist residencies in the United States, Thailand, Germany, and China. She has taught at the University of Colorado, Colorado State University, and Massachusetts College of Liberal Arts. She's a founding member of the research-based art collective Sprechgesang Institute and currently lives in Western Massachusetts. Please welcome Ashley Eliza Williams.
I am a painter and a sculptor obsessed with non-human languages and interspecies communication. This work is a communication attempt between a tumbleweed and a rock. All of my work is a series of communication attempts. I love placing objects side by side to see what conversations might occur. I was painfully shy as a kid. I've always been envious of other organisms and the way they communicate without human language. The color flashes of hummingbirds, the wild chemical signaling of acacia trees, the electrical pulses of eels, the way that through photosynthesis, a tiny plant is in dialogue with the sun. I imagined that if I could produce a slime trail like a snail, I might be able to connect with my peers. Or if I was a plant, I might communicate through pollen spore transfer. This painting reimagines an ominous green cloud I once saw in the Rockies. I later learned it was just thousands of pine trees collaborating to release pollen in unison. This painting is called Convergence. The way starlings dance and move together can be partly explained by the mathematics of flight dynamics. One particle of matter, in this case a bird, sets off a cascade. But we still don't know why starlings move in this way and how they communicate in flight. I've always been extremely into rocks. Rocks tend to be rather quiet, which I relate to. And in Colorado, where I used to live, the pink sandstone made them look like they were blushing. As a person who blushes furiously when feeling pretty much any emotion with any real intensity, this is also extremely relatable. After spending a very long time staring at rocks, I started noticing lichens. Lichens are not an organism. They're actually a community. They're a fungi, an algae, and sometimes a cyanobacteria working together and supporting each other. They're a kind of mutualistic society. This work is from a solo show called Anthropocene, a project about the stories captured in rocks, the information contained in color and pigment, and what we can learn about history, ancient events, human-caused climate change, and deep time by studying the strata and by listening to rocks. This is a communication attempt between a bird and a cloud. This body of work is about animals and weather, the way migrating birds have to read storms in order to decide whether to ride through them or wait them out. How do migrating birds communicate with each other through darkness and turbulence? This is a somewhat fraught communication attempt between a human and a cactus. I made this during the pandemic. I found myself returning to the human form for the first time in a while. I was excited about concepts like touch hunger and feelings of desire, aversion, seduction, and danger. Here is a communication attempt between a human and a centipede. I'm intrigued by the tension between the sweetness of holding a creature and feelings of danger and disturbance. Whenever I hold an insect, I think about the kinds of things the insect might be sensing and how different our perceptual experiences must be. This is a pandemic painting that happened mostly because I love fuzzy things. Sometimes my sketches take the form of word associations. I write things like, how do I make something seem alive? Fuzzy, squishy, warm-blooded, heavy. And then I'll give myself a challenge to create a studio companion. This painting is another communication attempt between a human and a rock. It's also a pandemic painting. It seemed important that the rock and the lichen are more compelling and detailed than the hand. The hand is tentatively reaching out, a kind of semi-embarrassed hug, attempting a relationship. This is an installation shot of some of my paintings at a show in Detroit last month. There are 3 different types of communication attempts here: the echoing landscape, right side up and upside down, lichen communities, and the overly eager human reaching out toward the non-human. Lately, I've been going on walks in the forest with these lichen paintings as my companions. Lichens are not only a mutualistic society, they're also sensitive to environmental change and serve as bioindicators. The colors and structures alert us to the presence of pollution and tell us about the health of our environment. As I walk with the paintings, I've been thinking about the forced migration of plants, animals, and people due to climate change. Entire ecosystems, forests, and communities are having to move, sometimes northward, sometimes inland. I call these moving paintings or restless objects. During the pandemic, I photographed these cutout paintings in different places. I think of these restless objects as quiet, traveling storytellers, sharing a story about movement, interspecies friendship, maybe, or community. I think that lichens might be able to teach us something about how to be better humans. Here is a restless painting in a snowstorm. Recently, I've been making color samples in the field, trying to understand the incredible greens and blues. Lichens sometimes look like paint splatters to me, and I'm playing with using the surface of the painting as a palette and leaving some of the remnants behind as a trace. My new work includes field notes. I had the wild experience of briefly participating in the saw-whet owl census at Williams College. We collected data about the tiny owls, their wingspan, their health status, and also the conditions of the forest. I loved the scientific charts and the bits of poetry that wandered in. These are a few of my newer paintings. Night pollinators, real and imagined, with field notes. I love hiking at night, the perceptual strangeness of it, the way nocturnal plants and animals communicate through scent and sound and small flashes of light. With these paintings, I'm trying to explore a potential future ecology. In summary, I am obsessed with non-human language. I believe that we can learn from quiet and overlooked beings about new ways of connection as we navigate how to take care of each other and our environment as awkward humans on this very fragile, beautiful, and very weird planet.
Thank you, Ashley, for sharing your work with us, and for the other artists for presenting tonight. We will have an opportunity to ask questions. I know you probably have a lot of burning questions after seeing this amazing work, so we'll turn the lights on and we will pass along the microphone. So if you just hold tight for a couple minutes. Speaking. You can take your masks off when you're speaking. We'll turn off the projector. Can you hear? Great. I don't know about you, but I'm absolutely inspired by the work I just saw tonight. And so, yes, this is such a great treat. Who would like to ask the first question? We have somebody right here.
Thanks to all four of you for really terrific presentations. Ashley, I had a question for you about the work, your most recent work. It looked like there was a shift from making images based on very close, detailed observation and moving into a more kind of symbolic or poetic, a more open interpretation. So I wondered if you could, if that's how you're experiencing it, and if you could talk about that shift.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for that question. I think all of my paintings are kind of a combination of close looking and trying to understand structures in nature and imagination. Those newer paintings, the moths, are kind of more imagined. I've been thinking about a future ecology more and imagining what, like specifically with those paintings, what would happen if we actually don't destroy all the pollinators, if they're allowed to continue to evolve, what extraordinary things might occur. So I'm having fun just kind of iterating. They're also really small. They're kind of smaller than how I usually work, and I feel like I can have more fun with kind of working quickly through imaginative ideas with those paintings. Yeah.
Great question. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, over here.
Yeah, great talks. Thank you, everybody. I have a question for Ryan about your work in Springfield. Like, and you've been working there for some time now. How do you feel the places change? How do you feel yourself in the spaces you recreated? How you feel people react, and do you feel it connects people to the places in a different way than before?
I definitely feel very much accepted in that community, and it's largely in part thanks to figures like Rosemary, who are working to promote the arts and assert their importance in society. I think Springfield as a whole has taken a lot of steps, even in the years before the pandemic, to promote and recognize visual artists.
And do we have any other questions? I have a question for Mahwish, if we don't have one right now. So Mahwish, with your community work with the children, how has that impacted how you make your work now? I know you had mentioned that you usually are in the studio by yourself painting miniatures. So it's quite a departure working in that scale with lots of children, and I find that really fascinating.
Yes, thank you for the question. It's definitely changed a lot because I'm currently working on a collaborative project, and I've kind of diverted more towards collaborative projects because I think that voices of many are stronger, and I think that there are artists already working in the community thinking in a similar way. So why not take advantage of that? I'm currently collaborating with an Indian American artist, and we're looking at Indus River and Indus Valley civilizations that were formed around the river. She's from India, I'm from Pakistan, and if you know the history of the country, we were India before 1947 and split into two countries after that. And it's almost like the heritage and our artifacts that were found in these civilizations were divided post-partition. And we're looking at that as a shared legacy, and how we are from the same area. We're both from Punjab region, and we share culture, we share language, we share traditions, food. So there's so much that is shared, but then there is so much that divides us once we get closer to the border. When we're away from the border, we are looked at, or we are kind of put in the similar category in a lot of ways, South Asian. So I find that very interesting, and I think the collaborations have definitely become a bigger part of my practice in short, let's say. And I do have a catalog of the current project, if anybody is interested. It's called the Sindhu Project, and it's anyone to take with them. Thank you.
Thank you for that, because I know working with the community really does impact creating your own personal work. I saw a hand go up. Did you have a question? Or there's a question over here.
I guess this is more for the group, because one of the things that really I notice with a lot of the work here is that there's a vulnerability that you have expressed with your work. And it's in the work, but when you talk about the work, and it seems different for each of you, but it feels very brave to me, this work, and it helps me to say, oh, I could maybe put that into my work or talk about that in my work. But I was curious if you had anything to say about that and how it might feel to be exposed in appearing before a group and talking about the work, if that's at all difficult or if it's liberating or both.
Great question. Grace, do you want to start off?
I'd say for me, because I tend to actually put myself physically in my work so frequently, speaking about it adds a layer to it because I'm really sort of getting to the meat of it. But also I do with my work, because I am kind of being so vulnerable with either my thoughts, my image, my body, all of those things. I kind of like in order to make that work, I feel like I need to make the work, but it's also, I tend to sort of like disconnect in some way. I have to like shut off maybe more of like a critical eye at times to just sort of like get it out there. I don't know if that makes a lot of sense, but yeah. Which way should I pass?
I don't know what I was going to say, except that it's terrifying. and yes, I would happily just be working in my studio, but it's also a very good opportunity. And yes, that's all. That's all.
It's a lot more freeing than doing this in school, really, because I'm not like laying open my soul for a passing grade, you know. And one of the best parts of like making this work or doing these shows is that people actually come up to me and share similar stories to them about what they're going through, and that really makes it feel like I'm making a difference.
Thank you. That's a great question. I feel like it comes from a place of passion. I can speak for myself for sure that we're, very dedicated or passionate about these subject matters, and I guess I don't mind putting myself out there for that cause.
That's a really wonderful question, and one that, artists have. I mean, I really feel like making art really is sort of a privilege in that you have that space, if you have that space to create work, and when you do sort of put it out in the world, you really are sort of putting yourself out there. And it's really amazing when people are supportive and come out and hear the stories behind the practice. So really appreciate you all coming out here tonight. We have time for one more question if anyone has one. Oh, over there, yes.
I have a question for Grace. Looking through your performance body art, who are some of your inspirations? I definitely saw Marina Abramovich kind of vibes, things like that. Who are some of the artists that have inspired you with performance, or any of your art styles, textile, installation, what have you?
I think there's a huge variety. When I'm thinking about these kinds of performances where they're sort of more like endurance performances, I would say, there's sort of like a group of women artists that I've referred to, and to be honest with you, it's been such a while since I've made that work that I don't have a lot of their names on the top of my head. But I also reference, I grew up doing dance, so I reference different like choreographers and things like that. That's like inspiration that I would look at now, I'd say, as well. In terms of the installation, there's kind of like a huge variety too to that of who I look at. I was just thinking about, gosh, this is so bad because I feel like I don't have names off the top of my head, but there's like a number of fiber artists that I reference and look at their work, and ceramicists. I'm also like often looking at my friends' work and kind of like feeling like I'm more in conversation with them at this point. Sorry, that's not very helpful, but.
Well, thank you, everyone. Again, thank you, artists, for sharing your work tonight. So if you haven't seen their work yet, you can go up to the mezzanine. There are several samples of their work on display for the month of February. And also just keep in touch with our social media so you can find out when the next art salon will be happening. The format will be changing a little bit. We're trying to mix it up and make it a little fresh. So stay tuned, and we'll keep you posted. So thanks again.